suprasidati, completely satisfied. Okay, here's the verse. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Yayatma suprasidati. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Please chant. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Some more. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. And one more. Savai pumsam paro dharmo. Yato bhaktir adhok sajay. Ahaikuti apratihata. Yayatma suprasidati. Okay, did anybody memorize it? Keep trying during the day, okay? Let's try during the day. Won't have unnecessary expectations right now, okay? But it's a very nice verse. Okay, here's the translation in the purport in 1.5 seconds. Om Agnanati Midandasya Janandana Salakaya Chaksham Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master very kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge and revealed what is the paradharma, the highest benefit for all living entities. So I am very indebted, eternally indebted, not just very indebted, eternally indebted to Srila Prabhupada, and I beg for service life after life continually. Hare Krishna. So here's the translation. The supreme occupation of Dharma for all humanity, is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy. So let's say it together and then we'll analyze it together, okay? The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So what's this verse saying here? Two different things, or two related things. So what's the highest good for everybody? Did it name the religion? Did it name the process? Did it name the thing? So what's it saying? Yeah, attained loving devotional service. So it's very interesting, isn't it? It didn't say this or that or this institution or that institution or this particular religion, but loving service unto the Supreme Lord. Now that can be revealed in different ways to different degrees, but the highest way is the way that's totally focused on developing loving service. And then what's the condition? Second sentence, that's the hint. So what's the condition, or what's the circumstances that will cultivate it the best? Kunti. When there's no selfish motives, and one other thing, a haikuti, a pratihata, those two things. Let's look at the words. Thank you. You're uninterrupted, it's continual, and it's not motivated. So those two words. A haikuti means causeless, a pratihata, unbroken. Unmotivated. Why is motivation? What does motivation, what does personal motivation add to or distract from the process? Why would it?
It's something you want, it's just going to get you further in the rabbit hole.
Yeah. In other words, if there's some material motivation, I'm doing this because I want fame. I'm doing this because I want a better position in life. I'm doing this because you know what I mean? All of those things they're okay in the beginning, because we all have some motivation in the beginning, obviously, some material motivation, some spiritual motivation, some material motivation. It's mixed. We're mixed. It's not that in order to start bhakti, you have to be a pure devotee. Where would we be? We wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be able to start. So we have to start where we're at. So that means, covered different motivations. But in order to get the full benefit of bhakti, of devotional service to the Lord, one needs to come to a place of unmotivated, and you do it sometimes and you don't do it sometimes. No, it's uninterrupted. It's constant, because that's a sign that you're 100% surrendered. That's a sign that you're really transcendentally motivated. Okay, that's a beginning analysis without reading purport. Now we read purport. Okay, but you know what? If you don't mind, I'm going to read the purport, because I know you're only going to get one sentence in, and then I'm going to start interrupting. So I'll just talk. Okay. But feel free to ask questions as they come up, or clarification, or add thoughts too. Okay. In this statement, Sri Sutta Goswami answers the first question of the sages of Naimisharanya. Okay, now here's your test. Do you remember some of the other questions from the sages of Naimisharanya in the first chapter? Okay, here's this one. Here's an easy one. How many questions were there? 6 questions. Okay, we'll start there. Okay, now some of the questions, do you remember?
Of all revealed scriptures.
Which is and the answer is here, is going to be here. Good. What's the essence? Why do they want to know what the essence is?
Because people are degraded in Kali Yuga and need like the Spirituality for Dummies book.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Also, too, if you have a broader look on a broader understanding of what Vedic literature means. Just Vedic, we throw the term around, Vedic literature. It's in the Vedas. It's part of the Vedas. But when you actually, there's in the Bhakti Shastri course, they give you 1 or 2 slides on the different components of the Vedas, the different types of literatures in the Vedas. It's huge. It's huge, vast amount of. It's like 47,000 different encyclopedias, with all slightly different, understanding, some higher, some lower, some more particular than others. So so they're asking, we don't have the wherewithal to go through it all. Can you just give us the essence? What's the essence? So so now think of that. Here's the essence. The essence is unmotivated, uninterrupted devotion to the Lord. That's the essence. And how you're going to do that? Well, the rest of the book is going to tell you. But that's the focus. Okay. the sages asked him to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential part so that the fallen people or the people in general might easily take it up. Now, here's another analyzation of the Vedas. The Vedas prescribed two different types of occupation for the human being. One is called pravritti marg, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called nivritti marg, or the path of renunciation. So, in other words, what's being explained here in summary is that there's two paths that one could take. Bona fide paths to self-realization, the path of sense enjoyment, how to enjoy piously within certain parameters, within certain rules and regulations. And that pious enjoyment will bring one to more and more elevated states of life, maybe more prosperity, more intelligence, a nicer material situation. But it's all very quote unquote bona fide. It's called the karma kanda section of the Vedas. Do this. If you want this, then do this. If you want this, then do that. If you want this, then do that. And covers a vast range of desires that the living entity has in the material world. And it gives the path on how one can religiously, follow different rules and regulations to get those material results. Can you think of any downside to that path? What could possibly be a downside to that? It's bona fide. Bruce? Bruce, you know what? You're the only person's name that I remember practically. So I don't know how it is, but thanks for having an easy name to remember. Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Attachment.
Attachment. Can you a little expand on it a tad?
They're going to get what they want and they're going to get attached to it.
Exactly. And then what's going to happen? Like the result. I think I'm happy here.
They're going to take birth again?
Yeah. That was a song I was quoting, but I'm sure you don't know it. It was Kendra. You probably don't know him either. You might know, but anyway. Kendra used to sing, when it lets up a little, when the material world, when it lets up a little, I think I'm happy here. And that means the motivation to get out isn't so strong because I'm living, quote unquote, in the mode of goodness. I have a nice situation, a nice relationship, nice family situation, whatever. And I think I'm happy here. In one sense, it's cheating, isn't it? Because that's why the sages, they don't approve of the path of sense enjoyment because it cheats the living entity of the real happiness of devotional service. That's a major point, that surrendering to Krishna and engaging in full-time loving service to the Lord in loving reciprocation with him, that pleasure that's derived is described by in the songs of the acharyas, anandam buddhi vardhanam. It's an ananda, it's unlimited ocean. It's always increasing. The happiness is always increasing. And usually the happiness that we experience in the material world, there's some pleasure, but it's definitely, very few people would say, yeah, my happiness is always increasing. Okay, I better keep going here. Well, that was pravritti marg. Okay, one is called pravritti marg, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other called nivritti marg, the path of renunciation. Less, just even the words of that, the path of renunciation, it's less appealing, right? But the taste, the bliss is higher. Okay, the path of enjoyment is inferior, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. The material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of actual life. Can anyone remember some of the verses that explained how this one sentence? The material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of life. Actual life is spiritual existence. Can you think of any quotes or anything that might support that statement? I'm sure there are various ones. I'm thinking of one, but maybe you have some others. Okay, which one is that from the Gita? As long as you get the microphone, you can continue. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. And for those of us that don't have the translation exactly memorized, would you like to tell us what Abrahma Bhuvana Loka means?
To the lowest one, in this material world, all the places of misery.
Yeah, where repeated birth and death takes place.
Dukkhalaya Shashvatam. It is certified by Krishna. It is temporary and miserable.
Stamped by the creator. Punk. Well, I made you this place. Punk. Stamped. Temporary and miserable. Have fun there. Another one that I'm thinking of, I don't remember all the Sanskrit for it. That's why I was hoping somebody might pull it up, or they might. When one turns his face, what's that really long Sanskrit? When you turn your back on the Supreme Lord and you think you can enjoy separate from him, it's a really long Sanskrit that's a tongue twister. It'll come to us. But anyway, there's a verse that we've turned our once in the spiritual world, everyone's focused in on Krishna. Krishna is the supreme the supreme object of everyone's of attention. Once we turn our back, then the result is, and think I can be happy without Krishna. The result is fear and repeated birth and death. So by turning our backs on the Lord like that, then we're out of that atmosphere of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. We're into this temporary atmosphere of repeated birth and death where we have to fend for ourselves. It's a different, and that is symptomatic of our disease. Our disease is that we think we can enjoy separate from Krishna. Just like my little fingers, they think they might be able to be happy if they were cut off and running around on the floor. But anybody with any experience knows the fingers are happier when they're stuck on your hand. They're much happier. When they fall off your hand, it's a very painful situation that continually you have to deal with it all the time. So it's an illusion. It's an illusion. That's a simple example. It's an illusion. They're not going to be happy separated. We're meant to be connected to the Lord somehow or other. Fingers, hands, bones, arms, whatever, legs, toes. We're meant to be connected to that whole body of the Lord. And when we are like that, when we are connected, then we can function in so many wonderfully happy ways. And when we're disconnected, then it's a whole nother struggle. Okay. Actual life is spiritual existence, or Brahma Bhuta existence, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is Dukkhalayam Ashasvatam, temporary, illusory, and full of misery. There is no happiness at all. Now, okay. Sometimes we come across little sentences that Srila Prabhupada writes and we think, no happiness at all? Want to discuss about that for a little bit? No happiness at all? But aren't you happy now? Somewhat, right? So how can you say there's no happiness? Let's talk about that. Nate.
I like I heard this lecture, maybe Prabhupada says it in a book somewhere, but it's like the temporary cessation of an itch. Like we think we're happy, and I have, that's too much, but I understand what that's like, and we think we're happy because our suffering slightly mitigated for a moment.
Right. We're just, Bruce, did you want to add something different or another flavor to that or layer?
I was gonna say, because it's not real happiness, because it's just temporary, it's actually just suffering, because when it goes away, it pulls you back down.
Yeah.
And it's, not real happiness.
Not real happiness. Jonathan.
Just one thing that comes to mind is the long version of Serenity Prayer, which I feel like encapsulates the entire spiritual path.
Okay.
And at the very end of it, it says, believing that he, make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next.
Nice.
Amen.
Thanks.
I was thinking how the Bhagavatam says that our happiness and distress in this world is already scheduled. And so it's gonna come, the material happiness or distress, whereas the happiness in spiritual life is unending. It depends on our intention, how much we put into it, really. So it's unlimited. Whereas, that one's gonna just come and go up and down.
Yeah. Gopal, did you want to add something?
Verse in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, of Uddhava Gita, where Krishna says, O learned Uddhava, one who fixes his consciousness upon me, giving up all material desires, enjoys with me a happiness is impossible to be experienced by those engaged in sense gratification.
Wow. Happiness that's impossible to be experienced by one who's engaged in sense gratification. Advaita? And then you. Okay.
Yeah, just one thing about being reasonably happy in this world. This statement of Prabhupada, there's no happiness at all.
Yeah.
There's another one, I don't know where, but I think it was in Hawaii when he said, and it's just juxtaposed to this one. It says, there's no happiness, he said, but
If there's any happiness.
if you find any, you'll find it in America.
I believe he said in Hawaii.
Which
Yeah.
which is Hawaii.
Yeah,
Hawaii.
but you're right.
It was in Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for adding that. Kunti? And then question, sorry.
I was just thinking that whether something makes us happy or not depends on our consciousness. Like when I was in parties when I was younger, I'd be really happy, but then the closer I got to Krishna, the more engaged I got into devotional service, then the same parties were really boring.
Exactly, good point. Another example Prabhupada gives on that same point. In the winter, a warm shower makes you feel really good. In the summer, I think he says it different. Hold on, he says, in the summer you really like your cold bath, but in the winter you don't like that cold. It's the same thing, but it affects you differently because you're in a different situation. And Prabhu.
But even devotees go through happiness and distress, and many times they might not be happy. And Prabhupada at different points of his life was not happy or was distressed. So how do you explain that?
We explain it because we're practitioners. We're getting a glimpse at what the goal is. We're getting information of what it's like at the end of the tunnel of material existence. So we're getting a glimpse of that. So it's just like another example that Prabhupada gives, a common one, but one that's easy to relate to. It's just like, so when one takes the devotional service, it's like unplugging the fan. So the fan, these guys are going kind of slow today, but as it heats up, they go fat. You turn it on higher. And when you shut them off, they take a while to turn around, slow down and stop completely. So the experience of happiness and distress that we feel as practitioners of devotional service can be compared to that. The more that we're still identifying with our mind and senses, the more that we'll think, oh, washing these pots make me happy. Or you might think the next day, washing these pots don't make me happy at all. I hurt my finger and this and that, and I got filthy dirty and it was hard work and my back hurts and this and that. So that might be there. All of those things might be there. But when we remember, but by engaging in devotional service, I'm purifying my mind and heart and senses and everything, and I'm pleasing Krishna, then we can align ourselves better with the goal and the true sense of happiness. Most of the time, as we progress through devotional service, our happiness that we're feeling is still based on our bodily condition. I'm happy because whatever. Nothing's coming to mind right now. I'm happy because I have nice friends as devotees, or I'm happy because of, I just had a really good feast, even though it was all spiritual. prasadam, I'm thinking of it. It all tasted really good for me, you know, like that. Or I'm sad because this person told me that I didn't clean the floor properly and I had to do it again, you know, like that. So that doesn't really thoroughly answer your question. Would you like to add something to it? Or Adwaita, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that we might not be happy in devotional service, but we can always be satisfied.
Yeah.
And there's something deeper. You know, externally things might go on and off. We might be perturbed by circumstance. Like Srila Prabhupada also, he reflects that in that poem that he wrote in Radha Damodar Temple. He laments about a lot of things, but he said, but I'm sitting here and I'm simply laughing. I'm laughing at the fact that all my family members are gone. My business, everything was just wiped. But he was able to laugh because of the presence of Krishna.
Yeah.
And in the face of all the adversities, and we're all going to face them.
Yeah.
So with Krishna, we can be satisfied facing the adversities and experiencing, you know, devotees actually experience that, but they're not affected because they're Krishna.
That's an important point too. Just like, so that example of Prabhupada's poem when he's in Vrindavan thinking, you know, now my family's this and this, they're just all a list of names, you know, but I'm sitting here happy because why? Because of that higher knowledge of who he really is and his mission in life to follow the order of the spiritual master. So similarly, we will experience, it doesn't say that there'll be no birth, death, old age, and disease for devotees. Once you surrender to Krishna, no more, I mean, hopefully, eventually, there'll be no more birth, but still there'll be growth, birth, death, old age, and disease. There'll be other factors in life that, but with this transcendental knowledge, the things that we go through in life won't have that edge on it, that edge of hopelessness on it, because there'll be that the jewel of knowledge there will light up the inner core of your consciousness. Adwaita Prabhu?
The reason why the devotee is able to do that, following the footsteps of Prabhupada, is that because unlike most people who are in search of happiness, devotees, they find happiness in a search.
And service, if I might add.
Yeah, search means service. Where's Krishna? Where's the opportunity to serve Krishna? So therefore, they're always happy.
And that's because constitutionally, we're servants. Ew. No, it's wonderful. We're servants, and therefore, just like that, now take the example of the little fingers attached to the hand. Now, those little fingers are servants of the whole body. And when they're attached, they're happy. They might be serving, they might be serving whatever, however, you know, but they're happy that way because that's what they're connected properly. Our connection to the Supreme Lord. That's how we were constitutionally made. Did you have another point?
I was just thinking about the fan, and I was thinking how a fever, when we have a fever, like Prabhupada talks about it, right? When we have a fever, we talk about jaundice. Initially everything, appetite is so lost, and it gradually comes back. It takes time. Like even when we take the medicine, it takes time.
Yeah,
and
to recuperate, right?
Yeah,
Not instant.
And then finally our appetite's back. We're like, yeah, this food is actually good. And I was thinking how, you know, we have a spot out there. We have this right at the side porch. We have a spot where water drains from the roof and it goes on the what are those called? Those tiles, the outside tiles, but it's stone. But it falls almost every day, drip. So there's a hole there, and I was thinking how I was talking about it. Somebody like just like Krishna consciousness, one drip every day, little by little, and it's made a huge hole over there.
Yeah.
Which needs to be fixed.
And you can't tell from today to tomorrow. You can't see the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a few more days, in a week or in a month, or now you've been looking at it for years, watching the hole go bigger, thinking, what am I going to do about that?
And I did fix it so that I can bring it to class.
Good. I understand. That's a perfect reason not to fix it. because it's a really good example, practical. Okay, all right. Let's go on a little bit. There's no happiness at all, right? Okay, but that no happiness at all, again, that the happiness that we get here is a relief from anxiety. Just like today, practically, all of us are really happy because it's under 70 degrees. Yay! But that's what is that? That's because we were miserable when it was 90 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So now it's not that. We're thinking, okay, now I'm happy. Hare Krishna. That's a good thing to remember. You know, it's a relief from the distress. What we consider happiness is a relief from the distress. I was just reading in Vilamrita just yesterday. Prabhupada's just went on their first Harinam to Thompson Square Park, and he's just now getting a whole new group of interested people, and things are expanding. And so there was one person, you know, understandably arguing with Srila Prabhupada, but I'm happy. Prabhupada said, and Prabhupada, he didn't like mince his words and try to, you know, convince him that. He said, that's illusion. It's just a relief from the misery. That's what you call happiness. And when you think about it, that's what people are calling, that's what we're all calling happy. That's what we're thinking happiness is. Well, you know, it's not 90 degrees out or this or that or whatever, so I'm happy. Or I got another job that pays better, so I'm happy. But it's, you know, I got to work now from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. But I'm happy because I'm getting more money. You know? Okay, let's go on. Material existence is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. There is just a futile attempt to get rid of the miseries. And temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. Now, where have you ever read that before or heard that or anyone discussed anything like that? In all your big educational institutions and all your self-help groups and all your this and that, nobody says it like that. But doesn't it like strike you to the heart? And yeah, that's what we've been doing. Okay, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is inferior. Now, are there any doubts about that? No. We're comparing Pravritti Marg and Nirvritti Marg, the path of sense enjoyment and the path of renunciation. And I think, let's see how Prabhupada defines renunciation. Let's see if it goes on. But devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all cognizant life, is called superior quality of occupation. Okay, that's a good point. Occupation, dharma, in our verse is savai pumsam paro dharmo. So dharma, sometimes when you come into Krishna consciousness and we hear these different terms used, they're used in different times, in different ways, in different contexts. Here, dharma is not referring to, you know, what's your occupation? Are you a Brahmin or Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra? That's not the predominant definition of dharma in this case. Here, dharma means occupation. What are you doing to develop your love of God? How do you cultivate that? And people do it according to those different divisions. Yes, that's true. But now it's just the general topic of what we're doing to develop eternal life. This is okay. Okay, I'm just going back. The devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all cognizant life, is called the superior quality of occupation. This, okay, now quoted similar to what Shruti Sarga was asking, this is sometimes polluted when mixed with the inferior quality. For example, adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the diseased condition of life. Now that's a mouthful. Adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the diseased condition of life. So that term renunciation sometimes gives us a little bit of hesitancy in our heart. Renounce. You gotta renounce. But what is it that the point of renunciation here that's being made? The point to be renounced, or is the motivation. Renounce the motivation of what we're doing or why we're doing things. I'm doing things not in materialistic life for my personal satisfaction. If we renounce that attitude, then we can do things for the satisfaction of Krishna that might have been very similar to what we were doing previously. Everyone was eating before they came to Krishna house. Everyone was cleaning their rooms, or hopefully, probably some of you weren't, but anyway, everyone was doing different things. Jai Shri Shri Koni Tai. But now people were talking and singing and developing programs and this and that and studying. But now, because we're not doing it for our personal satisfaction, we're doing or trying to do it or trying to come to that platform of doing it for Krishna's satisfaction. We've renounced that faulty attitude that leads to more and more entanglement in material life. And yes, we don't have the pure attitude of 100%, but it'll come because we start off mixed. Okay, such enjoyment in material sense gratification only aggravates the symptoms of a disease and increases its duration. Therefore, devotional service of the Lord must be pure in quality, without the least desire for material enjoyment. One should therefore accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of devotional service without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruit of action, and philosophical speculation. This alone can lead one to perpetual solace in this world. So there's still more. So now, Kunti, could you read a little bit from here on? And then we'll try to summarize it all, just so that we get it all in, okay?
We have purposely denoted dharma as occupation because the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all-attractive living entity or eternal form amongst all other living beings or eternal forms.
Okay, hold on a second. Comments or questions or thoughts on any of those things? Tendency is to just like read it and not absorb it. Let's try to read and absorb. Bruce, can you read a little bit more, please? Each and every living being.
Each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is one of the servant and the served. It is transcendental and is completely distinct from our experience in material existence.
Okay, that's a good discussion point. He's saying about servant and served. The relation is one of the servant and the served. So what would you feel like that? Your mother says, "What are you doing?" "I'm learning to be a servant." Perhaps a response could be something like, "What? What kind of a job are you going to get if you learn to be?" You know what I mean? Or even if we even take that away, what kind of conception do we have of there's the master and the servant, on a material level? Usually it's yes. Yeah. Someone's better and I'm less, and therefore I have to serve. And usually is the circumstance, are they denoted in a pleasant way? Not usually. Usually it's very exploitative. Usually. Prabhu, what would you like to add? Or contribute, we could say. Hare Krishna.
My thought on this is just that it's always so important to realize how much conditioning we're bringing to our understanding of different terms.
Good point.
These are describing, or Prabhupada is describing, our original eternal existence, which we have almost no frame of reference for.
It was so long ago, we totally forgot. Go ahead.
And we've been serving the wrong masters in the wrong way. So we have to be open to a complete factory reset on our understanding of different concepts.
Okay, so I just thought while you were talking, I thought, what if somebody says, I'm not serving anybody. I'm independent. I'm my own boss. I'm my own person. So how would we gently point out that that might not be a very valid statement to say? How would you point it out? I'm not serving anybody, Jonathan.
Because we're always serving something.
Yeah. What? Who?
We may be a servant to our own mind and our own senses.
That's the point. Thanks. We're serving our, above all, and primary thing is we're serving our senses. The mind says, I want a pizza. And then your mind says, but it's only 3:00 in the morning. It's not a good time to eat pizza. But you think, no, I want it now. And
They have no problem with that. They think that's
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Another point that when Jonathan was talking, I thought of that Srila Prabhupada gives often. He says, even the president or the minister or the prime minister or whatever, he's a servant of all the people, because as soon as they don't want him and then they'll revolt and they'll get him out, so he's thinking that he's the supreme boss. Or the mafiosa guy who's the head mafia guy. He's the head mafia guy as long as he can make sure that he knocks off all his competition. So he has to be very alert for that. Someone's coming up in the ranks, he has to be very alert for that. So it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, Farouk. I saw your wanted poster, but I don't know what your name is. What's your name?
Gopi Jivana Das.
Gopi Jivana. Okay, Haribol Farouk.
I think it's easy to point out people's weaknesses to them. You can start by asking what their relationship track record looks like. It's very rare that someone has good relationships across the board.
Yeah. Advaita Prabhu. And we'll finish up here, I promise.
What I would ask them is, what is the thing that you value in life? Because it's all really revolving around the values. Like even with our military public servants, we say thank you for a service because we all place value. So therefore we appreciate what they're doing and say thank you for a service. And being public servant, it's actually, if you define the value, people think really high of public servants because they are serving our common interests. So I think what we as devotees, we have to define that there's a value in spiritual life, there's a value in Krishna consciousness. Once we are able to communicate that, then servant as a servant of Krishna becomes like very high.
Yes, thank you. That's a very core issue. We actually have to understand what the difference is of having Krishna as a master and our senses as a master, or whomever, fill in the blank, somebody else. And because and that's why we need to continually hear and chant and keep at the in the process, so that we can realize that he's not a exploitative master. He's not, he's not in it for himself, but actually it's our constitutional position, and that work. Let's just finish up. Would somebody yes, go ahead. Questions are okay. 2 comments.
This is just a quick comment about this idea of understanding different terms like Gopi brought up, and what Advaita Prabhu was saying, serving people, being unaware that serving your own senses. The word passion comes from Latin, and it means to suffer or to endure. That's like the root, that's the root of the word passion. But we think now it's like, oh, I'm so passionate, I'm so
considered a good quality.
Yeah, it's like I'm really fired up about doing something or about a person. But yeah, our language today is actually really interesting. People have no idea. Something that used to mean to suffer has now become like a good quality. It's very interesting.
Shows you how we're advancing in Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
Vaisheshika brings that up a lot in his lectures and stuff. He always asks what the etymological definition of the word is and where it comes from, and they come up with things like that. So nice. Okay, we're just going to finish this last. Would you like to read the last couple of sentences? because there's one, okay. It's start with, it's
One-
transcendental, start there. It is transcendental and it's completely distinct.
It is transcendental and it is completely distinct from our experience in material
That's
existence.
talking about servant and service. Okay, go ahead.
This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. That will gradually give one a clue, the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction.
This is very essential part of the purport, these last couple of sentences. Did you catch anything? Did anything catch your mind there? Okay, we're going to read it again. Read it again. There's a really important sentence in there, if not more than one sentence. Okay, it is transcendental.
It is transcendental and is completely distinct from our experience in material existence.
Completely distinct. Go ahead. I'm the emphasizer, okay?
This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy.
Read that again.
This
please.
relation of the servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy.
And one more time.
This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. That will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction.
Okay, anything strike you in those sentences that we just read? Gradual. Okay. Something else. Yeah. Really? How did you get that? Yes. Interesting, isn't it? It's not that we're saying it in so many ways previously. Congenial? Yeah, somebody with a phone can look it up. Congenial. Congenial means it's good for you. Yeah, it works. But that's the thing, our conception of servant and service. Okay, what is it? Pleasant because of personal qualities or interests that are similar to one's own. Now, who would have thought of that? And, pleasant or congenial. Thank you. That's what you get when you can do things fast on the computer. That this form of this serving of Krishna is the most congenial form of what? Friendship? No, intimacy. Yes, dear. Actual life. Yeah, real life. So let's try to remember that during the day. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. And memorizing that verse, 1, 2, 6 ki jai. How does it start? Savai pum sam. Okay, good. And what it? Paro dharma. Okay. Vanchakalpa trivyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo maha. And from this verse on, practically this whole chapter can be memorized. Just putting it up. Not that I have to go on. Still a few weeks. October 14th. If you want me to. Okay, yeah. 14th of October. 13th of October. Hare Krishna.
It's not easy being perfect. People get jealous.
I was done with it.
Yeah.
So really about you.
Everybody like, yeah, some stuff like. Yes, oh, I have a question. We talked a lot today about and so how do we respond to the same people? How do we do that?
Well, actually, in the beginning, it's actually a good motivation. It's a good motivation, because if you don't, if you don't realize it's less than it says it is, not gonna be motivated. So when I go, in the beginning, it's good. So, yeah, and then, because you're applying it, it's not necessarily true. Because that's taken by Rod, that's the principle of taken by Rod, every service. Just like my one, like no, but because you okay, so take that and don't forget that the material world is like, you know what I mean? And that'll keep you on the track. Okay?
But how do we respond? We're like, oh, the heart is small and it's like,
yeah. We say we're not pessimists, we're realists.
Yeah.
You know, pessimism is one thing and foolish is another. You know, lying is all. You know, we're all thinking that the individual, you know,
like, why is it
and I was thinking, you know, it's just different.
one thing I was telling
blind.
I don't know.
Sometimes just sometimes a few words are better. But oftentimes, you know, even if you say something, it's a bit, like one, it takes a little bit to go into it and expand
So
on.
he says it's on us, like, but it's on the house. I'm giving it, it's a different type of, yeah, and that's right. I just want to like I didn't buy it basically because I'm excited to say it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay too. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if you say less is more, beginning, say less in the beginning, it helps them, you know, question or bring about, you know, more discussion. You know, so it's not that you don't want, if you want less is more in some circumstances, and then you want to pull out more when there's less. Good luck.
Really, that less is more than just well, okay.
Well, you have to have it in there.
Yeah. Well, I've been listening to your house. So I have it.
Sorry.